My friends, have you ever asked yourself, why does a loving God allow suffering? Why do the righteous face hardship? Why do the innocent weep? Perhaps you have felt the weight of sorrow pressing on your soul, the kind that keeps you awake at night, searching for answers. Maybe you have stood at the graveside of a loved one, tears streaming down your face, wondering, God, where are you in this pain? Tonight I want to tell you, God is not absent in your suffering. He is not blind to your tears. He is not deaf to your cries. No, my friend, He is near, He is working, and He is speaking to us, even in the valley of our deepest sorrow. This message is for those who have ever questioned, ever doubted, ever felt abandoned in their suffering. And I urge you, stay with me tonight, because by the end of this message, I pray you will see that suffering is not the end of the story. God has a purpose, He has a plan, and He has a promise for you that will change the way you see your pain forever. My friends, we don't have to look far to see that suffering is all around us. It's in the hospitals where loved ones battle disease. It's in the streets where the hungry go unfed. It's in the hearts of those who have lost someone dear, those who feel the crushing weight of grief and despair. And I know some of you here tonight are carrying burdens that no one else sees. You smile on the outside, but inside your heart is breaking. You wonder, why? Why does a loving God allow this pain? I want to tell you the truth, straight from God's Word. Suffering was never part of God's original design. When He created the world, He called it good. There was no death, no disease, no sorrow. But something happened. Sin entered the world. The moment Adam and Eve disobeyed God, everything changed. Sin brought brokenness. It brought pain. It brought suffering. And we, all of us, have inherited a world that is now marred by sin's curse. Now, I know what some of you may be thinking, but why does God allow it to continue? Why doesn't He just put an end to all this suffering right now? My friend, God is not the author of evil, but He has allowed free will. He has allowed mankind to make choices. And the truth is, much of the suffering in this world is caused by the choices of people. Wars are waged because of greed and power. Families are torn apart because of anger and selfishness. Injustice happens when men turn their hearts away from God. And yet, even in a world filled with pain, God is still at work. He has not abandoned His creation. He has not abandoned you. The Bible tells us in Romans 8:22, we know that the whole creation has been groaning as in the pains of childbirth right up to the present time. This world is groaning, my friends. It's longing for redemption. And that groaning, it's a sign that something greater is coming. Just like a woman in labor feels the pain before the joy of birth, this world is experiencing suffering before the full glory of God is revealed. What we see now is not the end of the story, it's only the beginning. You see, suffering is a reminder that this world is not our home. If everything here were perfect, we would never long for something more. We would never lift our eyes to heaven. But God allows us to feel the weight of a broken world so that we might seek Him. He doesn't want us to be comfortable in sin. He doesn't want us to settle for temporary pleasures. He wants us to desire the eternal, the everlasting, the things that can never be taken away. And listen to me. God is not distant in your suffering. He is not sitting far off, unmoved by your pain. No, my friend, He is near. The Bible says in Psalm 34:18, the Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. If you are hurting tonight, He is right there beside you. If you feel abandoned, He is reaching out His hand. He is the God who sees, the God who knows, and the God who cares. Maybe you've been asking, where is God in my suffering? I tell you, He is in every tear you cry. He is in every whispered prayer, every sleepless night. And He is calling you to trust Him even when you don't understand. You may not see the purpose now, but one day, my friend, you will. And when you do, you will look back and see that through every moment of pain, God was shaping you, drawing you closer, preparing you for something far greater than you ever imagined. My friends, I know there are moments in life when suffering doesn't make sense. We see the pain, we feel the weight of loss, and we ask, God, why? Why would you allow this? We search for answers, but sometimes all we find is silence. And in that silence, doubt begins to creep in. The enemy whispers, if God really loved you, he wouldn't let you suffer. But I want to tell you something tonight. God's ways are higher than ours, and his purposes are greater than we can comprehend. What we see as pain, God can use for a plan beyond our understanding. The Bible tells us in Isaiah 55:8-9, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts." That means there will be times when we don't understand why suffering comes. But that does not mean God is not in control. That does not mean he has forgotten us. No, my friends, God is sovereign, and he is working even in the trials we cannot explain. Think about Joseph in the Bible. He was betrayed by his own brothers, thrown into a pit, sold into slavery, falsely accused, and thrown into prison. From the outside, it looked like God had abandoned him. But God was with him in every moment. And in the end, Joseph was raised up to a position of power in Egypt, and he was able to save an entire nation from famine. When his brothers stood before him trembling with fear, Joseph looked them in the eye and said, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good." Genesis 50:20. Do you hear that tonight? What the enemy meant for harm, God can turn for good. What you see as a season of pain, God sees as preparation for a greater purpose. Some of you tonight are walking through a season of suffering, and you feel like Joseph in that prison cell. You don't see the purpose. You don't see the plan. But I want you to know, God is not finished with your story. You may not understand what he is doing, but he is working all things together for good to those who love him. Romans 8:28. And all things means even the pain, even the loss, even the things you never wanted to walk through. He can take the broken pieces of your life and create something beautiful. Look at Job. He lost everything, his wealth, his family, his health. He sat in the ashes, scraping his wounds, questioning why God would allow such suffering. And yet in the end, Job saw that God had never left him. He declared, "My ears had heard of you, but now my eyes have seen you." Job 42:5. Some of you tonight have heard about God all your life, but it's in the suffering that you will truly see him. It's in the valley that you will know him more deeply than ever before. My friends, when we suffer, we have a choice. We can turn away from God in bitterness, or we can trust that he is doing something we cannot yet see. We can believe that he is using this trial to strengthen our faith, to shape our character, to prepare us for something far greater. We can believe that what the enemy meant for destruction, God is turning into a testimony of his power and grace. I know some of you tonight are asking, but why doesn't God just remove the suffering? Why doesn't he take it away? My friend, sometimes God calms the storm, and sometimes he lets the storm rage while he calms his child. Sometimes he delivers us from the fire, and sometimes he walks through the fire with us. But he never, never leaves us. And if you will trust him, even in the suffering, you will one day look back and see that he was there all along, working out his perfect plan. There are moments in life when suffering feels unbearable, when the weight of sorrow presses down so heavily, it feels as if we might break beneath it. Maybe you've felt that kind of pain, the kind that leaves you on your knees, tears in your eyes, asking God, "Where are you?" Maybe you've cried out in the darkness, only to feel like heaven is silent. But I want to tell you something tonight. God is not far away. He is not distant. He is near to the brokenhearted, closer than you could ever imagine. You see, suffering has a way of drawing us to God like nothing else can. When life is easy, when everything is going well, it's easy to forget how much we need him. It's easy to rely on our own strength, our own wisdom. But when the storms of life come, when our hearts are shattered, we begin to realize that we are not enough on our own. And in those moments, God whispers, "Come to me." In those moments, he reminds us that he is our refuge, our strength, our ever-present help in times of trouble. The Bible tells us in Psalm 34:18, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." Think about that for a moment. God doesn't turn away from the hurting. He moves toward them. He doesn't ignore the cries of the weary. He listens, and he doesn't just stand by and watch. He reaches down with his mighty hand to lift us up. Some of you tonight feel abandoned, but I tell you, God is closer than the very breath in your lungs. You may not feel him, but he is there. You may not hear him, but he is speaking. He is not a God who leaves his children alone in their suffering. He is the God who walks through the fire with them. Look at the life of David. He was a man after God's own heart, yet he knew suffering well. He was hunted, betrayed, rejected. He spent nights hiding in caves, crying out to God, asking why. And yet, through it all, he wrote words that still echo in our hearts today. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. David understood something that we must hold on to tonight. God does not promise that we will never walk through valleys, but he does promise that we will never walk them alone. And I tell you, it is better to be in the valley with God than on the mountaintop without him. Some of you are in that valley right now. You are facing trials that you never expected, pain that you never thought you would have to endure. Maybe you've lost someone you love. Maybe you're battling sickness. Maybe your heart is heavy with burdens no one else can see, and the enemy is whispering, "You are alone, God has forgotten you." But hear me tonight. That is a lie from the pit of hell. You are not alone. The God of all creation, the one who formed the heavens and the earth, is standing beside you right now. He is holding you, strengthening you, carrying you through the storm. And my friend, there is something else that suffering does. It deepens our relationship with God in a way that nothing else can. When we have nowhere else to turn, when we have exhausted our own strength, we finally learn to lean fully on him. We begin to trust him, not just in the good times, but in the darkest moments. We begin to see him not just as a distant God, but as a loving Father who walks with us every step of the way. And it is in that place of surrender, in that place of desperation, that we experience his presence in a way we never have before. Some of the most powerful testimony, the greatest faith is often forged in the fire of affliction. And if you let him, God will use your pain to bring you into a deeper relationship with him. He will take what the enemy meant for harm and use it to strengthen your faith. He will take the tears you have cried and turn them into a testimony of his unfailing love. And one day, my friend, you will look back and realize that in the moments when you felt the most broken, God was doing his greatest work in your life. My friends, there are moments in life when the weight of suffering feels too heavy to bear. The trials come like waves, one after another, and we wonder if we'll ever make it through. Some of you here tonight are in that place. You've prayed for relief, but the pain remains. You've asked God for answers, but all you hear is silence. And in those moments, the enemy whispers, "You are weak. You will never overcome this." But let me tell you the truth. The trials you are facing right now are not meant to destroy you. They are meant to shape you. They are not meant to break you down, but to build you up, because God is not just concerned with where you are today. He is preparing you for something greater tomorrow. You see, suffering has a way of refining us, of revealing what is truly in our hearts. It strips away the things we once relied on, the things we thought we needed, until all that is left is our faith. And that is exactly where God wants us. James 1:02 says, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything." Do you hear that? Trials are not meaningless. They are doing something in you. They are making you stronger, wiser, more like Christ. But we must let them do their work. We must not fight against the process, but trust that God knows exactly what he is doing. Think about gold. Before it becomes something beautiful, before it shines, it must go through the fire. It must be refined. And that fire burns away every impurity, every weakness, until only the purest gold remains. My friend, you are that gold. And the trials you are walking through right now, they are the fire. But they will not consume you. They will not destroy you. No, they will refine you. They will strengthen your faith. They will prove that what God has placed in you is real, that your trust in Him is not just words, but unshakable truth. And some of you might be thinking, but I don't feel strong, I feel weak. I feel like I can't take one more step. And I want to tell you, that is exactly where God does His greatest work. Because when you are weak, He is strong. 2 Corinthians 12:9 says, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness." Do you see it? It is in your weakness that His strength is revealed. It is in your brokenness that His power is made known. If you could handle everything on your own, you wouldn't need God. But suffering teaches us to depend on Him completely, to lean on Him in ways we never have before, and that is a gift. Look at the life of Paul. Here was a man who endured shipwrecks, beatings, imprisonment, hunger, persecution, and yet he never wavered in his faith. He didn't see trials as punishment, he saw them as preparation. He saw them as part of God's plan to make him into the man he was called to be. And because of that, he could say with confidence, "I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation." Philippians 4:12. That kind of faith is not built in comfort. It is built in hardship. It is built in the moments when we choose to trust God, even when we don't understand. Some of you are walking through a season of suffering, and you don't see how anything good can come from it. But I tell you tonight, God is using this to strengthen you. He is using this to deepen your faith, to prepare you for a purpose greater than you can imagine. If you will hold on, if you will trust Him, you will come out of this fire stronger, wiser, and more unshakable in your faith than ever before. And one day, you will look back and realize that the very thing the enemy tried to use to destroy you, God used to prepare you for your greatest calling. My friends, one of the hardest things to understand about suffering is that God can use it for His glory. When pain enters our lives, our first instinct is to ask, "Why me?" We wonder what we've done to deserve it. We question if God is punishing us or if He has forgotten us altogether. But hear me tonight. Your suffering is not wasted. Your pain has a purpose, and if you will allow Him, God will take even the darkest moments of your life and use them to shine His light to a world that desperately needs hope. Think about the story of Lazarus. He was sick. His sisters, Mary and Martha, sent word to Jesus asking Him to come quickly, but Jesus didn't come right away. He waited, and in that waiting, Lazarus died. When Jesus finally arrived, Martha said, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." John 11:21. How many times have we felt like that? "Lord, if you had been here, this wouldn't have happened. If you had answered my prayer, I wouldn't be suffering right now." But Jesus looked at Martha and said, "Did I not tell you that if you believe, you will see the glory of God?" John 11:40. Then He walked to the tomb, called Lazarus out, and a man who had been dead for 4 days came back to life. And do you know what happened? People who had doubted, people who had questioned, people who had not believed in Jesus saw this miracle and put their faith in Him. The suffering of Lazarus, the sorrow of Mary and Martha, it all led to the glory of God being revealed. Some of you tonight are walking through a Lazarus moment. You don't see the purpose in your pain. You don't understand why God hasn't answered your prayer. But I want to tell you, just because you don't see the answer yet doesn't mean God isn't working. Just because the situation looks dead doesn't mean the story is over. God is writing something far greater than you can imagine, and He will use even this trial to bring about His glory. The Bible is filled with stories of people who suffered, and through their suffering, God's power was revealed. Joseph was betrayed and imprisoned, but through that suffering, God placed him in a position to save an entire nation. Job lost everything, yet in his pain, he discovered a deeper revelation of God's faithfulness. Paul was beaten, shipwrecked, and thrown into prison, but even in chains, he declared, "I have learned to be content whatever the circumstances." Philippians 4:11. How could these men endure such hardship and still trust God because they knew the truth. Suffering is not the end of the story. It is the place where God's glory is revealed. And my friends, it's not just in the Bible. Look at your own life. Some of you have walked through things that should have destroyed you. Some of you have endured loss, sickness, betrayal, but you're still here, you're still standing, and whether you realize it or not, your story is a testimony to the power of God. There are people watching you, family members, friends, co-workers, who see your faith in the midst of suffering, and it speaks louder than any sermon ever could. When they see you hold on to God in the storm, when they see you trust Him in the fire, they begin to wonder if maybe, just maybe, this faith you have is real. And that, my friends, is how God's glory is revealed, through suffering. Maybe you feel like your pain is too great, your trial too overwhelming. Maybe you think God could never use what you've been through for anything good. But let me tell you something. God specializes in taking what the enemy meant for harm and turning it for good. He takes broken things and makes them beautiful. He takes shattered hearts and fills them with His love. He takes the darkest moments of our lives and uses them to shine His light. And one day when you stand before Him, you will see that every tear you cried, every trial you endured, every moment of suffering, it all had a purpose. It all brought you closer to Him, and it all revealed His glory to a world that so desperately needs to see it. My friends, suffering is not the end of the story. I know there are moments when it feels like the pain will never end, like the darkness will never lift. There are times when the weight of sorrow presses down so heavily that you wonder if you will ever breathe freely again. But let me tell you something tonight. This is not where your story ends. The suffering you are facing today is not the final chapter of your life, because with God there is always hope. With God there is always a promise of something greater. And with God, even the deepest suffering will one day give way to eternal joy. The Bible tells us in Corinthians 4:17, "For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all." Now, I know that when you are in the midst of suffering, it doesn't feel light, it doesn't feel momentary, it feels endless. But what God is saying here is that compared to the glory that is coming, compared to the eternity that He has prepared for us, the pain we endure in this life is small. It doesn't mean our suffering isn't real. It means that something greater is ahead. Something that will make every tear, every hardship, every trial fade away in the light of His presence. I want you to think about this for a moment. The world we live in is broken. It is filled with sickness, pain, and death. But this world is not our home. This life is not all there is. God has promised that one day He will wipe away every tear from our eyes. One day there will be no more pain, no more death, no more sorrow. Revelation 21:04 says, "There will be no more death or mourning or crying or pain, for the old order of things has passed away." That is the promise we cling to. That is the hope that carries us through suffering, because we know that no matter how dark the night, the morning is coming. No matter how painful the trial, joy is on the other side. Some of you tonight are weary. Some of you have been carrying the burden of suffering for so long that you don't know how to hope anymore. But I want to tell you that God has not abandoned you. He sees your pain, He knows your sorrow, and He has promised that it will not last forever. Even now He is preparing a place for you. Even now He is working all things together for good. Even now He is holding on to you, guiding you, leading you toward the day when all things will be made new. And my friends, it is this hope that gives us the strength to keep going. It is this promise that allows us to endure suffering, not with despair, but with faith. Because we know that suffering is not meaningless. We know that God is using it to shape us, to prepare us, to draw us closer to Him. And we know that one day, when we stand before Him, we will see the full picture. We will understand what we could not understand, and we will rejoice because we will see that through it all, God was faithful. Through it all, He was working for our good. Through it all, He was leading us home. So I ask you tonight, will you trust Him? Will you hold on to the promise that suffering is not the end of the story? Will you lift your eyes from the pain of today and fix them on the glory that is to come? Because, my friends, if you will trust Him, if you will hold on, one day you will see that every trial, every hardship, every tear you cried was leading you to something far greater than you ever imagined. One day, the suffering will be over and the joy will never end.